KindaSound. Tune in for change.
Welcome to the Live Your Dream, a show which inspires by successful stories of those who did manage to create a lifestyle around their dreams, passion, and authentic set of beliefs. I'm your host, Joanna Orzechowska. Welcome everyone. Our guest today is Alex Schnee. Alex is a multi-passionate travel blogger and writer. After visiting over 50 countries, she encourages travelers to keep an open mind and be kind of the places they visit. She has written for publications such as Huffington Post, Foodors, and Matador, and many more. So welcome, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for dialing in.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
All right, so you visited over 50 countries. Wow, this sounds like something. I wonder if you remember actually all of them. But before we actually get to that, let's begin, as we always do, with the quote which you have provided us. So your quote is by Franklin Roosevelt, and it says, "Don't allow our doubts of today limit our tomorrow." Wow, I love this one. I bet many of us, including myself, needed to hear this today. Why this one?
It's a great question. I am the kind of person who has a lot of anxiety. I have suffered from anxiety and depression in the past. But really living by this quote has helped me experience new things, to jump into travel, to jump into a lifestyle that maybe is a little bit different than my peers were, or is normal by society. In America, we like to work a lot. We will work long days at the office, and that was something I was never interested in. I felt like that was missing from my life. So I really just wanted something to live by that would help me just jump into what I wanted to do and feel confident about that. So this quote really helped me with that.
Ah, wow, beautiful. Interesting. So you mentioned anxiety, you mentioned the pressure. This sounds like something which doesn't suit your image if I think about you in the first place, because you seem like a very courageous person. But I guess one doesn't contradict the other.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think it doesn't. No. So before we move to the core interview, actually, let's break for a music. And you suggested today to play "Send Me on My Way" by Rasta Truth. Any hint why this one?
I just think it's a fun travel song. I have it on my travel playlist when I'm headed to a new destination and just like to put it on and listen to it. And it reminds me of travel and how much I love it.
Okay, brilliant. Let's listen in then. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Our guest today is Alex Schnee, a writer and a traveler. Sounds like you are a perfect example of a person who knows how to live her dream. So you live out of something which you dearly love. Tell me more about your writing.
Absolutely. I grew up in a really small town in the United States in a state called Montana, and I hated it. It was too small for me. There were too many it just wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted to move to a big city, and so one way for me to kind of escape that small town was to write. I've always loved
Ah.
writing. And I've always loved reading, and that was a big thing in Montana too, is everyone loves the outdoors and getting out. And as a young person, I hated it. My parents tried to get me to go hiking and everything, and I'd rather read my book. So that was my escape in a way.
Right.
So it kind of just evolved from there. Always loved writing ever since I was a little kid, and it was something that made me happy. And when I was 16, I wrote a novel. And
Wow.
Yeah, and it was picked up for publication, so it was published.
16. This is so
Yeah,
young.
it was really young. I look back on that now and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were a baby. But it, but yeah, it was a really exciting thing for me. It opened a lot of doors. I was able to go to school in New York City, which was exciting
Oh.
for college. And then after that, work as a travel writer for different publications. So, writing really for me has been the basis of my career and also just kind of all the cool opportunities and travel I've been able to do. So,
Wow, amazing. So right now I bet everyone is just envying you because you you knew what you love right from the start. This is so unusual.
yeah, I was really lucky to kind of had figured out very young what I enjoy doing. And, definitely, of course, there were times where I doubted that and said, oh, maybe it would be better if I did something different. But really, writing is still the basis. I'm a blogger as well, so I
Mm-hmm.
write all day, every day. That's my
Mm-hmm.
job. And it really does. It just makes me happy at the end of the day. It makes me feel fulfilled. So, again, I was really fortunate to have found that so young.
Wow, so envy you. I still didn't figure out my purpose. Okay, so so what's your biggest? I mean, what was the biggest writing assignment you ever done in your life? What is the thing you are the most proud of?
Oh, the thing I'm the most proud of. It's kind of funny because after spending so much of my life not wanting to be in Montana, I actually write about Montana quite a bit. I grew up right by Glacier National Park, which is a very famous national park in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of visitors and tourists, and that's only increased as the outdoors becomes bigger and Instagram has kind of showed off these places. So Glacier National Park is now a really, really big attraction. So I write a lot about conservation, a lot about growing up in that area and how you can be kind to the environment when you visit. So I'm really proud of a piece I wrote for Matador Network about glacier and about global warming and climate change and how that can affect your trip there. And that's really a piece I'm really proud of because it really did come from my heart, and I also
Mm-hmm.
feel like it also explains some of the problems of over
Mm-hmm.
tourism and how having too many visitors can kind of cause a place to have some negative qualities and things like that. So.
Oh wow, amazing. So what do you do with your writing on daily basis then?
Oh, good question. As well as travel blogging, I write freelance as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I might sit down. I always have to have my cup of coffee before I
Mm-hmm.
start. Can't do it without coffee. At least like 3 cups of coffee to get through. And I sit down. I usually plan out what I'm going to do for the day, and then I will sit down and write 500 to 1,000 words on a topic that I
Wow.
have an article assigned on. And then I will tend to write a piece for my blog as well. So
Mm-hmm.
total, I write maybe around like 5,000 words a day.
Wow.
Um,
That's
yeah,
creative.
it's great. It is. And then also on top of that, travel blogging also includes being on Instagram, being on social media as well. I also have a podcast, so I might write a podcast episode or interview someone for that as well. So it's usually pretty busy. I like keeping
Mm-hmm.
busy, so but that's typically my writing day is start in the morning and then hopefully I'm done by the afternoon.
But before you get to that stage, before you go to that stage, and you were able to travel blog and do the freelancing, have you ever had like a writing career, let's say in the journalism?
I did, yes. I've written for a bunch of different publications, Huffington Post. I've written for Matador. I've written for Forbes. I've written for a lot of different publications. And I was also a managing editor at a publication as well.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of different hats within the writing space. And finally I was able to transition to having my own blog, which has been
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. I've really enjoyed that. But definitely gaining that experience through writing for other people
Mm-hmm.
as well as managing editorial for other people as well kind of gave me that confidence
Right.
in order to start my
Mm-hmm.
own thing. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I guess this is sometimes people's path. They need to go through this thing. They need to really get the experience, and then they can move to whatever they really enjoy, wherever their heart follows. So, how did it happen? How did that transition happen? Why did you decide to change your life in the first place?
That's a great question. I was working for a travel publication right before the pandemic. And I had been blogging for a very long time, but I never thought about it as a serious job, a serious
Mm-hmm.
business. And it was a way to make some side income. I was
Mm-hmm.
making some side income, so that was great. But then the pandemic hit and travel just kind of died completely. So that was a difficult thing because no publications were taking on freelance writers. The travel publication that I worked for actually ended up firing its entire staff just because it couldn't afford to keep going during a pandemic.
Of
And
course.
yeah, so and I have been thinking for a while. I said, I really want to start my own thing. I really like working for myself more than I like working for other people. So it was kind of an opportunity to say, okay, like let's give this a shot. Let's give this a try. And as well as freelance writing, which I've been doing for ages, this was a big change taking my blog from a side income to an actual business and
Ah.
being able to make money from it. So it was definitely a bit of an adjustment and it's been about a year since I really started working on it as a
Mm-hmm.
business. So yeah, I'm really surprised and shocked to see how well it's doing,
Yeah.
especially after a pandemic, but it was I had a lot of doubts going into it for sure, but it ended up working out, so that's good.
Oh wow, amazing. Congratulations then. How can we find your blog?
Yes, it is just alexonthemap.com. You can also find me on Instagram at alexonthemap. Really easy, so hopefully you'll find me.
And what are you writing about? About traveling then, I guess.
Well, currently I am writing about our national parks in the United States just because
Ah.
they are very big right now. We've loosened a lot of restrictions in the United States now. Most everyone has had their first vaccine here, so that's good. But that also means that people are kind of ready to get out and travel again, at least get outside. So national parks have been very, very big this year. So that's something I know really well
Sure.
after growing up right next to one. So I've been writing a lot
Ah,
about that. So that's
good.
been fun.
And what about before? Because you were also travel blogging, weren't you?
Mm, yes. Before the pandemic and before really any of this happened, I was writing a lot about being a digital nomad, which is working and living abroad, whether
Mm-hmm.
you hop around from country to country, which we kind of did, or if you choose to stay in one place more as an expat and work abroad. But it's interesting now because the remote work situation was not the same then as it is now. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's going to be a very
Mm-hmm.
different industry than it was before. But it was really fun to write about, and my husband and I were able to travel to, again, those 50 different countries just because his job was remote and my job was remote, and we had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, amazing. So, which countries have you visited? I mean, appreciate you cannot mention 50 all. I mean, you're not able to list all 50 of them, but name top 10, let's say.
Oh, top 10. Oh, that's Italy for me will always be one of my number. Yeah, it's amazing. It's where I studied
Yeah.
abroad and then lived abroad as a journalist for a long time. We love Spain. South Korea, I loved. It was amazing. Let's see, where else? There's so many places. I love Morocco, and Japan. Let's see. Peru. Peru is one of my very favorites. We loved Guatemala.
Mhm.
Man, is how many is that? Is it seven? Um,
That's fine. I mean, it doesn't
There's
need to be
so
exactly
many. It's
10.
hard to choose. It's really hard to choose.
So you at least named 3 different continents then. Oh, four actually. I think you named 4 different continents. So it sounds like you covered pretty much all.
We did, yeah. There are parts of South America that we missed out on, and parts of Central and South Africa as well that we're hoping to get to. But I think we've been to every continent except Antarctica at this point. So.
Wow. And how
Mhm.
long did you stay in each of them?
Ooh, we usually stayed about a month in
Mm-hmm.
each place.
Mm-hmm.
So we had an opportunity to kind of get to know it. By the end of a month, we had our favorite food spots that we liked to check
Mm.
out and favorite activities that we liked.
Mm.
A month was a really good thing as a digital nomad because it gave you enough opportunity to really kind of get to experience that place, but you also got to move on and see some new things as well. So that was a good setup for us.
All right. Okay, does make sense. So, what would you normally do then? How your day would look like? Where would you work and what would you do after work? What would you do in the weekends?
Ooh, oh, great question. What we would try to do, or at least what I would try to do, is get my work done pretty early in the morning. So I would get up, take a look, kind of the same as what I do now, take a look at what I needed to get done for the day, and then try to get it finished as soon as possible so I could go out and do some fun
And where did you
things.
work?
I worked either in the apartment that we were renting at the time, or sometimes we would have a co-working space or a coffee shop that we like to go to. I like to mix things up. My husband is very like, I work from home. I don't care to go out and do anything. But for me, sometimes a bit of a change of scenery is a good thing, and it helps me get things done faster. But yeah, and then we would just kind of pick what we wanted to do for that day, whether it was go to a museum or on the weekends I would love to take hiking trips outside of the cities and different things like that. So, we would usually come up with a list
Hmm.
when we arrived at each place and kind of cross off the list as we went on throughout the month.
How long did you travel for altogether?
Oh my gosh, total probably around 3 or 4 years.
Wow. All right. So are you open to talk about your challenges with your depression and anxiety?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
How would you overcome them? So obviously, I can imagine that if you have an anxiety, then it might be quite challenging to actually put yourself out there, be in media, travel. How did you do that?
That's a great question. It wasn't easy. I still struggle with one of those things. I'm not an extrovert by any means. I'm an introvert. I love reading and
Interesting.
spending my time alone by myself. Yeah, yeah, a lot of people say I don't believe that, but it's very true. Um, for me, having anxiety was something I've had for a very long time. So, travel in a way, I'm putting myself out there in media was a way
Mm.
to kind of help me get over that. And it was difficult at times. There were
Mhm.
definitely times where I felt uncomfortable or upset. But that was a great learning experience for me. And it learned for me, it's all about control and feeling in control. So I had an eating disorder for a very long time. So when I traveled to Italy and lived abroad in Italy, I couldn't control my diet. I had pizza and pasta and all that good, awesome, delicious stuff, but it wasn't the diet that I had for myself, but it was so good. And it taught me that it's okay to try different things and it's
Mhm.
okay not to have that control. So in a way, travel was one of the best things I could have done for myself because it really took me out of those comfortable
Mhm.
situations and
Mhm.
made me, in a way, be uncomfortable and release control.
Mhm. I agree. I couldn't agree more. I feel like traveling it's actually giving you so much of exposure different situation that you have no other choice but start trusting yourself. And I think like that the core issue with anxiety and depression is the fact that you either don't trust yourself or you don't trust the life or you don't trust the the circumstances. And by traveling, you have no other choice but starting trusting in your own abilities. So this is amazing. You did very good for yourself. Traveling is healing. Wow.
Well, thank you. And I completely agree with you. I do feel like travel is a great way to just take yourself out of that bubble. And it's also a really eye-opening experience in the way where it makes your problems seem pretty small when you're traveling around and seeing different people in the different ways they live. Your troubles don't seem quite as intense, I guess, as maybe some others. So it's just a very eye-opening experience in the way where you learn a lot about yourself and you learn a lot about the world.
So what was the eye-opening experience which basically taught you something very new about the world?
Oh, there's so many good ones. Oh man, I think
Mm-hmm.
India was a big trip for me. I was there almost 6 weeks, and my husband and I traveled
Mm-hmm.
through, and I loved the people there. And there was
Mm-hmm.
some extreme poverty that I had never seen before. And it was really eye-opening to think about the different circumstances from Western cultures and how that's different in India and the perspective. So that was a really eye-opening experience for me to see how people manage to remain so cheerful, how they manage to find some balance in their lives, either through mental health or wellness or whatever it might be. But they had an entirely
Mm-hmm.
different perspective on what their problems were as opposed to what
Mm-hmm.
I did coming from the United States. So that was a really eye-opening trip for me, and it really was a good reminder of the problems I had were
Mm-hmm.
not nearly the same problems that so many had, and so that was really a good learning experience.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I think like we Westerners, we have a tendency to think that our culture is the smartest, the best.
Hmm.
But actually, we have a lot to learn from other cultures. So
Yes.
yes, I totally agree with you. All right, beautiful. So, what would be your number one piece of advice you could give to our listeners who maybe they also have a dream like you, maybe they also have a passion like you, but they feel a little bit stuck in life and they are scared to make a move, or maybe they also have an anxiety? What would you advise them to do right now?
I think it's so easy to just say, just do it. And I've never found that advice super helpful for me, even though that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what I did. I think being in touch with people who have made those decisions with their lives, who have been successful, who have made it work for them, is really helpful. Whether it's your hero, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, but someone you
Mm-hmm.
can talk to and just say, these are the
Mm-hmm.
worries I'm having, the anxiety I'm having about making this big life change. And knowing that they've done it in the past and made it work for them can help you make that choice for yourself as well. And it just kind
Mm-hmm.
of opens up different doors for you. I think feeling like you have an example can be really helpful sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. I couldn't agree more. And this is exactly what I'm aiming to achieve with this show. So thank you. That was a really, really nice summary. I love that.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's helpful. Also, if people feel like checking it out, I have a podcast for digital nomads, and those looking to make that big leap in their career and their lives. And you can check it out at Nomads on the Map. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everywhere podcasts are.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm signing in, definitely.
Oh, awesome. I'll have you as a guest. That would be a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. It was such an immense pleasure to have you here today and hear your story, hear your challenges, and also your massive achievements.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And I loved speaking with you today. And thank you for asking such great questions.
Thank you. All right. So, this is time to say goodbye to Alex, but please stay tuned and listen to the last song which she has suggested to us today, and this is Wake Me Up by Avicii. Our guest was Alex Schnee, and you are listening to Live Your Dream by Joanna Żuchowska. Stay tuned for the last piece of music. Welcome to the Live Your Dream, a show which inspires by successful stories of those who did manage to create a lifestyle around their dreams, passion, and authentic set of beliefs. I'm your host, Joanna Żuchowska.
KindaSound, tuning in for change.